Kłania się Państwu Grzegorz Siemiończyk. Zapraszam na dwie rozmowy z cyklu Parkiet Investors Day, które dotyczyły będą nowego produktu na giełdzie papierów wartościowych. Mowa o ETC, czyli swego rodzaju certyfikacie surowcowym. Pierwszy ETC odzwierciedlający notowania złota zadebiutował na giełdzie w środę 30 sierpnia. A moimi Państwa gośćmi będą przedstawiciele firmy HANetf, firmy, która wprowadziła ten pierwszy ETC na warszawską giełdę. Serdecznie zapraszam. Hello gentlemen, Nikiem Bienkowskim, co-founder and co-CEO of HANetf, and Andre Voineão, director, head of German-speaking countries, including Poland.
Exactly.
HANetf. Gentlemen, welcome on our show. And let's start with the basics. Nick, please tell us a little bit more about the history of HANetf. How long have you been operating? What are your goals? And how did it happen that you are offering your product on Warsaw Stock Exchange?
Well, HANetf has been around for about 6 years. It's been set up as a third-party white label ETF issuer. And what that means is, rather than issuing our own ETFs, we work with third-party banks, asset managers, pension funds, or even corporations or companies like Britain's Royal Mint to create ETFs and ETCs for them. They may not have the ETF experience or the infrastructure to build an ETF themselves. So they'll come to us and we will build, operate, manage that ETF or ETC for them. And I guess the way that we come to Warsaw today is that 20 years ago I helped create the world's first gold ETF in Australia, and that brought me to London in 2003 also, where we listed Europe's first gold ETC on the London Stock Exchange. And when I came to London to create Europe's first gold ETC, I never left. So I've been in London for 20 years, and having that history in commodity and gold ETCs then brought us to work with the Royal Mint more recently 4 years ago, and we helped the Royal Mint of Britain create a physically backed gold ETC backed by a government's treasury department. So we're bringing that today on the Warsaw Stock Exchange.
Where do you operate? Like in how many countries do you? I understand that the business is quite easy to scale up, like to move to different new markets.
Correct. The business has been, it's based in different cities and countries around Europe, but the goal is that we're bringing ETFs to Europe and even Mexico. We have some products listed on the Mexican stock exchange, so we can list products anywhere, but ETFs work in scale. So we don't just bring them to one country or one group of investors. The idea is that once you create the product, because retail, institutional, banks, private banks, pension funds can buy ETFs, the goal is to bring them to all countries around Europe, which also helps to keep the costs of operating the ETF and ETCs down, which makes it cheaper for investors to own. And hence, we're slowly expanding to countries like Poland, for example, that has a large population, a growing financial market, etc.
Andre, what is the target group of this gold ETC?
It's very diverse. So experience from the past when we interact with investors in other countries, and I think Poland will be similar, is that you have the full spectrum from retail private investors all the way up to big institutions like pension funds or insurers. What we noticed is many people have a need for a defensive kind of allocation, a safe haven allocation, which gold does very well. So if you take Germany, for example, which is the market that I've covered so far, retail investors are very keen to have gold in their portfolios, so it's one of the main target groups for us. But we've also had success recently with pension funds who have a diversified multi-asset portfolio approach. And within those portfolios, especially in difficult times like now when you have interest rates going up and maybe recession fears in the market, it's a good diversifier. So you really talk to a very broad range of institutions. And I'm actually interested to see the Polish market, how they react. I think from our interactions so far, it has been the brokerage and retail market, which is interested in this gold approach. That's why we also list with you publicly here to have the product listed in Polish zloty for local retail investors. But long term, we also go for institutional.
And what will be your criteria for assessing whether the product is successful, whether it caught on Warsaw Stock Exchange? What are your expectations?
I think already, before today's listing, we tried to engage with a couple of investors in the market. with the brokers who represent the retail market, but also with some fund managers. And the feedback so far was very good. They proactively told us, yes, we think this is a good idea. We think this product will have demand. We know there are other competitor products and also our products which trade via Germany at the moment, but are still already investable in Poland, which already have assets. So I think one simple measure will be, can we raise money in the product? Will there be investments coming in? That we can measure. We will also measure whether there's trading volume on the exchange. We will, of course, see how the listing is doing and then try to evaluate that.
Nick, do you think that this gold ETC will be like the beginning of your experience in Poland? Do you plan to offer another products from your portfolio?
Yeah, we definitely hope so. HANetf has currently around 40 products, ETFs and ETCs. The gold ETC was one of our first and one of the largest at close to $1 billion of assets under management. But our products are listed on 6-7 European exchanges. So the goal is to bring those products to more exchanges around Europe, not for necessarily the institutional market, as Andre said, because they can trade on any exchange, but yes, also for the institutional market, but also the retail market, because they can trade in zloty, they can speak to their local broker, they can buy in the local brokerage account, and that's cheaper and easier to do via a Warsaw Stock Exchange listing than trading it somewhere else. So we hope that, I guess, when you asked Andre about how we would evaluate success, success would also, if we're seeing success, would also be us bringing more products to the Warsaw Stock Exchange.
All right. Andre, could you please elaborate a little bit on what are the benefits of getting exposure to gold via the ETC, and why is it ETC and not an ETF?
Sure. So the first point, I think an ETC, like an ETF, is very simple to trade. It is a very safe structure. It's a very established structure that, as Nick said, he invented it 20 years ago. So we already have a 20-year history, which is fairly long. It's transparent, it's liquid. So it's exactly what you would want for a retail investor, to give him protection and make sure that he understands what he's trading, that he can see what happens, how the price evolves, and so on. So these are really the advantages: simplicity, cost efficiency, liquidity for an ETC. Now, to your second question, why an ETC and not an ETF? That's fairly simple. There's regulatory-wise in Europe, when you have investment funds that are for retail, there's a regime called UCITS, investment regime. And UCITS does not allow investment in physical commodities, first of all. And secondly, you also need a diversified portfolio of assets to be able to package it as an UCITS ETF. So the challenge was to say, how can we build a structure that's very almost identical or similar to an ETF, as safe, as liquid, as simple, but not a UCITS. So we had to find a solution. That's actually where Nick came into play and said, well, we can do something very similar, backed by gold, 100%, looks like an ETF, it's just a different name for it.
So if you would like to have a gold ETF, it would have to invest in mining companies' shares.
And we do have such a gold mining ETF listed on 5 exchanges in Europe.
All right. Nick, one feature of your product, which I find quite interesting, is that it's 100% physically backed, and investors have the option to redeem the ETC for physical gold,
correct,
gold bars or bullion coins. Is this option popular in other countries when you operate?
I'd say it's been used a couple of times to redeem for the gold. But the beauty of the gold ETC is that you can own it in your brokerage account. It's simple to trade. You pay your broker a transaction fee, and then you just hold it in your portfolio with your other investments. And then when you get your statement, you can also see your investments all in one place. If you want to redeem for the gold, of course, there's some administration involved and some costs involved. But once you own that gold, you're left with the problems you had before of why the gold ETC exists. Where do I put that gold? Many people will often put their jewelry or their money or watch sometimes in the socks or the closet at home, and then 5 years later you've forgotten where it is, etc., or you put it in a safe. But is that insured? What happens if the house burns down, etc.? The gold backing our gold ETC is warehoused at the Royal Mint in Britain, etc. So it's safe, it's secure. So there's no real need to physically redeem for gold, but that option is always there if someone does really want to redeem their ETC for the physical coins or gold bars.
Right. Last question, gentlemen, and it will be it for you, Andre. The full name of your product is quite long, and it's the Royal Mint Responsibly Sourced Physical Gold ETC. What does it mean that the gold is physically, that it is responsibly sourced, and does it matter for the investor? I mean, does this ESG gold perform any better than the usual gold, normal gold?
It's a good question. I think when it comes to responsibility in ESG, in this case, it is not about performance so much as about where the gold comes from, what's its provenance, and how, you know, I know which...
Guilty conscience.
A little bit like that, correct. Because, you know, as you probably know, the industry, especially in Europe, is pushing ahead with ESG measures and sustainability measures. So we had investors asking us, well, you know, gold is a commodity. You have to take it out of the ground. It's dirty, in a sense. So can you do something to make that better, maybe? So we implemented it last year, a year and a half ago already, and we changed the name, as you said, to this very long, responsibly sourced gold to show people also that there is something being done. We do two things. In summary, one is we use something called the LBMA standard of responsible sourcing gold, which means we take this standards takes care that there's no child labor, no terrorism financing, no things like that are being taken care of in the supply chain from gold out of the ground to the gold in our vault. And secondly, we use recycled gold in our product partly. So these are the two responsible measures we use.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Andre Voineão, Director of Head of German-speaking regions for HANetf.
And Poland.
And Poland. And Nikiem Bienkowskim, co-founder and co-CEO of HANetf. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.